Hello everyone, welcome back to Dark World Carousel. We're going to make this a 3-part series. Episode 1 will be mostly about how to break down the songwriting process, how to write a song, how to take an idea and form it into something tangible. Episode 2 will consist of how to use, I use personally Soundtrap for most of my work, so that's what I'm most familiar with, so that's what we'll be talking about for the most part. By the way, I am not endorsed in any way by Soundtrap. And part 3 will be how to publish your work. So yeah, let's get right into it. So from this moment on, I'm going to assume that everyone listening has some form of musical understanding. For instance, you know what the keys are, you know about quarter notes and half notes and all of that fun stuff. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. We can definitely, I still think there's something of value for you here. If you'd like me to make an episode about basic music theory, I am more than happy to if there's enough of a demand for it. But we're basically going to break it down into 5 different parts. There's no particular rhyme or reason or order to them, and you don't necessarily need all of them in order to make one song. So yeah, here's part 1, the melody. Now, I'm making the melody the first part of this series because, in my opinion, it is the most important part. And my personal favorite way of making a melody is usually coming up with some kind of phrase, a phrase of the spoken word. So get your notepads out, and we're going to start writing down some phrases to help you get started on your first song. So I'm going to use one of my songs for a base model for this. You can definitely use whatever you want to. You can follow along with this, or you can use your own phrasing. And yeah, basically years ago, I got a phrase stuck in my head. I was going through kind of a bit of a rough patch in life at the time, and I felt very trapped and cluttered. And so a phrase popped into my head. It was, "And I keep waiting for you to tell me when I get to breathe again." Your first phrase does not have to be anywhere near that profound. But now that we have a phrase, how do we turn that into a melody? Well, the easiest way to explain it from me is you sort of dance with it. What do I mean by that? What I mean is you basically take the phrase and you start breaking it down into pieces to fit into musical notation. If you have some sort of musical instrument, you definitely use that to try to find your key. But humming it works just as well. And so you play with it, you play with it in your head or on paper or with an instrument, however you creatively work. So let's dance with it. Let's dance with this phrase and see if we can come up with something. Now, I'm a particular fan of the key A minor. Well, I guess it's more of a chord than a key, really. But yeah, we start with A minor and we break down our phrase. And we try to find a way to make the phrase fit into a measure. Now, if you have no understanding of music theory, that's perfectly fine. A measure is basically your chunk, a chunk where all the notes fit into. So in the key of A minor, I came up with, "And I keep waiting for you to tell me when I get to breathe again." I do apologize, my voice isn't the best, but I'm a songwriter first and then a singer second. So what did we just do? Well, we did a lot of things there. We took our phrase and we broke it down into notes, basically. And you can do this with pretty much any phrase. So like I said, you don't have to follow along with this one if you don't want to. For instance, you could be something really simple like, "I love apple pie." And so the notes kind of break themselves down in that situation because we have 4 quarters of the measure. I love apple pie. We'll use this one instead because it's a little bit easier. So we take the word apple, and we're going to break that down into, cut them in half. So it's going to be 2 notes for apple, half the size of the other notes in the melody. And instead of using a key, we're going to try to hum it. Now, of course, "I love rock and roll" immediately popped into my head when I first said "I love apple pie," but since I don't want to get demonetized, I definitely am not going to use that as our melody. So since we have essentially 5 notes, kind of referenced more like 4 notes, we're going to break the melody down into quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, again, if you have a musical instrument, you can play around with your favorite notes, or, if you understand music theory and you're writing this down, you can write down your notes in quarter notes. But for the rest of you following along, we're just going to hum a tune. Da, 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 da. And then you just put the phrase in with the notes, and you've got yourself a starting of a song. I love apple pie. So now that we have a basic understanding of the melody, we're going to move along into the second part, the message. This is a pretty important part as well, definitely up there in the top 3 of the 5. But what is your song about? Like, what exactly are you trying to tell the listener? For this part, we definitely don't need any kind of music theory. This will just basically be more of an understanding of what exactly your song is about. Now, some songs just don't have a message. Some songs are just meant to be dance tunes or anthems or ballads. You know, they're not meant to have a message. So you don't necessarily need one in order to write a song. But for this particular instance, we're going to try to come up with a message. Now, we're going to use the phrase from the beginning here, I love apple pie, and we're going to see if we can come up with some sort of message that we want to send to the audience. Now, just because the phrase itself has some sort of small message in it does not necessarily mean that that needs to be the main message. For instance, although the phrase I love apple pie is in the song could be about all pies, or maybe not just pie, but food in general. But for argument's sake, let's keep it simple, and we'll just make it the message is that I love apple pie. And once you have your message, you have a much better understanding of where you want to go with the song. Now, it's important to keep the message clear, concise, and make sure that you don't deviate too far from the actual message. You can definitely wiggle around a little bit, but you got to stay on point. And the reason for that is basically with a song, one emotion heartily felt is much better than trying to convey 2 or 3 or even 5 smaller emotions in one song. It's just very confusing for the listener. So with our message established, we can start writing lyrics that follow along with that message. And this is why the phrasing was the first part of the song, because now that we're in the message and writing the lyrics, we're going to be basically using the phrasing again. So what do we love about apple pie? Well, what are things about it? It's sweet, it's decadent, it's warm, it's comforting. So we take that and we start turning those into phrases. It's warm and sweet, decadent and comforting. And then we basically dance with those phrases again and repeat the process until we have a bar. A bar basically being a chunk, like a measure, but bigger. It's warm and sweet is, again, 4 parts, so that makes it pretty easy. It's warm and sweet. Decadent and comforting is a little bit more complex, but I don't think you necessarily need to understand what the notes are broken down into in order to make it work. But I believe we're going to use 8th notes in this particular situation. Decadent and comforting. So yeah, now we have 3 parts to the phrase, and we can finish it off with repeating I love apple pie, and we've got ourselves a full bar. I love apple pie, it's warm and sweet, decadent and comforting. I love apple pie. And look at that, we have ourselves a full bar of melody. 32 more just like that, and you got yourself a full song. So now we get into the third part, the theme. So how is the theme different from the message? Well, a message is basically an idea that you're trying to convey, whereas a theme is where that message swings around and dances in, pretty much. And once you know your theme, you'll probably know what chords you want to use at that point. Major chords would make it sound more uplifting and happy. Minor chords, definitely a little bit more somber or sad or creepy. So yeah, let's try to come up with a theme for our I Love Apple Pie song. Now for this particular song, we probably want something soft and warm. So I'm thinking the song itself would probably take place in a bakery. And the individual that is going to be singing our song is just walking by the bakery and notices the apple pie and just can't help himself but to start singing along to I Love Apple Pie. And again, you don't necessarily need a theme to your song in order to make a full song work. What you do need, on the other hand, is part 4, the chords. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be extremely difficult for me to explain what chords are if you don't understand chords. For those that do, though, it should be extremely simple. But luckily, I have the necessary materials here to actually make it... you'll be able to hear the chords because I'll be using some sort of synthetic instruments from Soundtrap to make this work. Again, not endorsed by Soundtrap, but it's a great app. Highly recommend it if you care to give it a shot. So for this particular song, given the fact that the theme is going to be, soft and warm and, all that stuff, I'm going to go with my personal favorite for these sorts of songs, which is G major. I love apple pie, it's warm and sweet, decadent and comforting. I love apple pie. And look at that, we now have music backing our melody. You can loop it, you can make a full song out of it, you can do basically whatever you want with it now. You have it, it's yours. And then we finally move on to part 5, the rhythm. Now, the rhythm is going to basically set the pace of your song. I don't expect you to understand what beats per minute or BPM is, but for those following along that are in music theory, we are currently at 120 BPM, and again in the key of G major. Now, we don't necessarily want anything particularly complex or hard rhythm for this particular song. We want to keep it nice and simple. So I'm going to pick a set of drums from Soundtrap again, and we'll just put it to our guitar chords and see if we can come up with something. I love apple pie, it's warm and sweet, decadent and comforting. I love apple pie. And now we have a rhythm. Now, I do apologize. I've been particularly vague for most of this in here because I didn't want to get too in-depth with it because I didn't want to get too specific on account of the fact that you might be using your own phrasing, your own melody, your own rhythm, all of that. So I basically just used a bass model. But yeah, that pretty much covers how you start with your song. In episode 2, I'm going to be talking a lot about Soundtrap and how it works and how you can use loops and not just loops, but also make your own melodies with guitars and things like that. There's a bunch of things you can do with this app. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for now. We've already, we're getting close to the 14-minute mark now. So just wanted to say thank you if you made it this far. I really do appreciate you. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more notifications. And stay tuned for episode 2. All right. Bye, guys.